fanboys and fangirls, it looks like the Samsung Exynos 2200 chipset is a huge positive game changer, as some early reports are saying that the new Exynos 2200 with the collaboration in AMD are proving to be a huge payoff in performance, in terms of graphics, etc. And I think it's safe to say that it's time to see this GPU-CPU combo make its way over to the United States, and I'll explain why in this episode. Also on today's episode, we got some info on the iPhone SE3 and iPad Air, and I'm here to tell you guys that for all of you really upset about the iPhone SE3, I hear your arguments, I hear your complaints, but I honestly don't think I care, because I know you're not gonna buy this phone, so why should I care? But I'm just gonna talk about it anyway, just to piss more people off, because guess what? You want professionalism, go find those scripted dudes. When you watch a Technoid show, you get unscripted, unprofessionalism at its finest. Let's cue that intro. Alrighty, story number one. Let's start with the iPhone SE3 and iPad Air 5, because you know what? I've been doing the main stories for the first topic of these shows. You know what? It's time to switch it up. Let's see what happens at the end of this video. But anyway, first story up, let's get it out of the way. So as you know, Apple is scheduled to release several new products. They're actually rumored to release a lot of new products, so much so that it is being reported that this might be the biggest and probably one of the biggest and most huge impacts that Apple's gonna have in terms of releasing products. And it all starts with the iPhone SE3 and a new iPad Air 5. Now, according to several reports, the iPad Air 5 is going to be getting a spec upgrade in regards to the CPU. There are reports saying that it will probably use the A14 Bionic to help keep the cost down, or possibly make the jump to the A15, which would be incredible if they actually did that. So we're gonna have to wait and see in regards to if Apple's gonna put an A14 or A15. But in regards to the iPhone SE3, on the other hand, that is where most of the negativity is coming from. Now, as you know, a few weeks back, John Prosser came on my show. He technically did show those leaks before he leaked it on his own podcast. So remember who you give credit to, John. Remember that. But anyway, he did show off that it is basically going to be the same design that we have seen for the last almost 8 years, I'm going to assume, because it feels like I've seen this design so many times. But realistically, all that it is, it's just going to be a device that gets you into 5G at a cheap rate, and it will, of course, tag along with the SE. But a lot of people are upset because this design, as I said before, is over 8 years old, reportedly. Again, I don't know the exact dates because, again, it feels like forever. I mean, listen, Imano. If you've seen this phone so many times, even you'll forget how long it's been around. But regardless of that, a lot of people are upset because with such good hardware inside of this packed little mini phone, the fact that they're still going along with a design that is that old is kind of blasphemous. I'm pulling Stephen A right now. And what's even worse is that most people say that there will not be any kind of hardware changes. It'll have the same battery, it'll have the same wireless charging, it won't have MagSafe, and to top it all off, the redesign is rumored now to be in 2024. So now we have to ask the question, Apple, why, okay. First of all, if you watch the intro, I was joking, by the way. I was just joking, so don't get that twisted. But I kind of understand the complaints. Now, listen, I understand that Apple has to make an entry-level device for those that don't want to break the bank and those that want to stay into the Apple ecosystem. And that's exactly what the iPhone SE does. It's a cheap, portable device that not only has everything, the necessities of what you need, but it does enough to get you into that Apple ecosystem. And while I do understand and respect Apple's choice to keep that design going, again, the time frame says it for me. Listen, this device should have been redesigned, or at the very minimum, should have had a newer display. Now, I'm not saying go all premium. I'm not saying make a notchless device. Don't even do that. Put a notch on it. Put something. Do an iPhone XR. For crying out loud, just take the iPhone XR or the iPhone X design and just put an LCD display and boom, price it at $499 or $399 again. But I get where everybody's arguing about, and the fact that Apple needs to push this to 2024 is just ridiculous. I honestly don't see why you need to push it all those 2 years. If all you want to do is save cost, then just take the iPhone XR design. As a matter of fact, I would even tell people go get the iPhone XR if you're tired of that, because that device is getting so down low to the price of an iPhone SE, there really is no reason unless you want that bionic processor. So overall, I know I'm focusing on the complaints, but on the flip side, mostly people that are complaining aren't going to buy the device anyway, so it doesn't matter. But for those that are looking for the upgrade, I understand where you're coming from, and I do agree with you, and I think Apple, you should just do what you've always done. Take an old design, put the things in it, and boom. Now I understand people are gonna say, oh, they wanna do something different, or they wanna give us so much intuitive, great designs. Honestly, people, this is coming from the company that has had the notch for 4 years, and then hopefully we're gonna phase it out, but it's gonna have 2 punch holes and a pill shape. So don't tell me they're trying to innovate. And last story, the final story, the main story of this episode, the Samsung Exynos 2200. Now, as you know, I have been a huge advocate for the Exynos 2200. I have said it from day one, and I will say it till I am blue in the face. The Exynos 2200 is a game changer for Samsung hardware, and I felt that it should be in the United States. And reportedly, the specs, the check marks, the benchmarks, everything have come back, and we have early reports from users that have actively tested the 2200 with the AMD GPU, and the performance level is on a new set for Samsung devices. But a lot of people still hold on to what the Exynos did in the past. Now listen guys, I'm not going to defend the Exynos, as I understand there were a lot of hiccups in the road. But it's been so many years since then, and now that Samsung seems to have finally found their stride, they finally figured out how to make a CPU powerful and efficient, not just for their device, but to help spread across the board, so that way they can be more in line like Google and Apple and have hand-in-hand hardware and software releases. Granted that Android is of course released by Google, at least they can push their updates faster because it's their hardware. Now I'm not saying they should ditch Qualcomm 100%, but the fact that the GPU and the CPU performances are starting to outscore some of the Snapdragon chipsets, and the fact that most people have been praising the ray tracing. Now, if you don't know what ray tracing is, I'm going to give you a quick synopsis. Ray tracing, if you play a video game, is the little highlight of detail inside of the game itself. PlayStation made a big deal about that when the PS5 came out. And the fact that a mobile device can do ray tracing on a Samsung Exynos 2200 with an AMD GPU, that is some serious performance. So, why am I telling you this, the main story? Well, I believe that if there was ever a device capable of taking full advantage of the Exynos 2200 with the GPU, I am here to tell you. Now, of course, I know you Samsung fanboys were mad about the last episode. Well, guess what? You're gonna have your positives back here. So don't go off and running in the comments and going, oh, it's unprofessional. I think that the Note 20 Ultra should. I think it should be the device to get the 2200. Now, I understand there were reports back when they were saying that due to negotiations with Verizon and other carriers that they were going to instead use the Exynos as a Verizon exclusive, but then of course that deal never went through. I think now is the time, because if we look at the landscape of the smartphone world, Google has their Tenor chip that does amazing image processing and will be a very big game changer for Google going forward. Apple continues to do the A series, they have the M series now, and look at what they're doing with the Mac lineup. And now you look at Samsung. Sure, their Exynos is limited to Europe and other areas, but at the same breath, if they're outperforming the Qualcomm chipsets in not just 5G, but in performance, GPU, cellular, everything, then if there was ever a time to say, we gotta hit the switch, this is the one to do it. I am on board with the Exynos 2200. I know there are a lot of people that do not like this chipset, and I understand based on previous experiences. But I'm here to tell you guys that after so much time has passed, and after so many variants of the same CPU but with modifications, I think Samsung has finally found the rhythm. So I think it's time, in my personal opinion, it is time for Samsung to hit the switch and finally get this device rolling and put, I repeat, put the Exynos 2200 in the Note 20 Ultra. Actually, no, it's S22 Ultra. Excuse my language. I know you guys are gonna hit me in the comment section for that. But overall, to end this episode, I'm just gonna say this. If it's not broken, you leave it alone. And that's fine. But if you want to experience something new and something different, and you want a better representation with the ecosystem that you're using, this is the time to pull the trigger. And I think Samsung could do it. It's just a matter of if they want to do it.